All right, thank you everyone for joining us today for our webinar Beyond Voting. Before we get started, I just want to direct your attention to the chat. If you have any questions for our presenters, please make sure that you put them in the chat and we'll get those answered at the end. And also, if you are attending for credit or extra credit from an instructor, we will put the attendance link in the chat at the end of the presentation. So also be looking for that. My name is Misty Wilson-Mertens, and I am the chair of the social sciences at the Connect campus. And today with us, we have Babita Dewar, who is our coordinator of online advising. So Babita is a former TCC student, and after getting her associates at TCC, she completed her BA in International Studies at UTA. While at UTA, she was able to do a study abroad in Turkey, and then she later completed her master's degree in Homeland Security from Angelo State University. During her time at Angelo State, she interned at the State Department in Washington, D.C., and over the years, she has been involved in a number of civic organizations, including volunteering at Catholic Charities as a refugee mentor, a student volunteer at the World Affairs Council of DFW, and most recently at results.org, where she advocates for poverty-related policies both globally and domestically. She's also started a local chapter of Together We Rise. So before we bring Babita into the conversation, I would like to direct your attention to one model that scholars have used to explain civic engagement. Most people tend to think of civic engagement as just voting or being politically knowledgeable, but there's a lot more that you can do to be engaged in your community. And this model breaks civic engagement down into 4 components. So the first is civic action, which is volunteering or service learning or a general betterment of your community. Then we have civic duty. This is your willingness, or some would even say your obligation, to make a positive contribution to the society around you. We have civic skills, which is the knowledge and the ability to become involved in a civic organization or to participate in democracy. So a lot of times when you're talking about voting, you're actually talking about a civic skill. And then finally, social cohesion. This is a sense of belonging that you and your community have, and it also helps to create a trust and a larger bond of you to your society around you. So we invited Babita to speak today because her story incorporates all 4 of these components, and we hope that from her story you will be able to see how you can get more involved in the community around you. So Babita, my first question for you is, how did you first get involved in civic action?
Thank you, Department Chair Mertens, for the opportunity and come and speak on this topic. I am all about this civil engagement and one of my favorite topics, as you'll find out. So how I got involved is I was taking a human trafficking course for my master's degree, and I came across these books by the authors Nicholas Kristoff and Cheryl Wooden. So Nicholas Kristoff is a journalist who used to write for the New York Times, and he's written these books. And I feel like I've kind of crossed paths with him over the years. When I was doing my undergraduate at UNT, our professor was from World Affairs Council. He was the CEO, and he gave extra credit to go hear Nicholas Kristoff speak in Dallas on the extensive work he had done in Sudan during the conflict over there. So I went, I listened, life went on. And then I was on my master's, working on my master's, and then I came across his books, and I was like, cool, interesting. And so what I learned and I found so interesting and actionable was at the end of his books, he lists different organizations. So you read his book about these topics, turning oppression into opportunity for women worldwide and transforming lives and creating opportunities. So I was like, this is interesting. And remember, I'm taking human trafficking course at the time. So at the end of his books, he lists different organizations that you can connect with that have done good over the years and rank highly on Charity Navigator. So we'll talk about Charity Navigator later on in a minute, but that's how I got involved. Is that I was like, wow, I have a list of different organizations that I could connect with. This is the topic I'm interested in right now, whether it's human trafficking or social justice, so on. But that's how I got started.
So, for our students who maybe are going about their daily lives and they maybe see a problem in their community or in their neighborhood, who do they reach out to if they want to solve a problem that they have found?
Great question. I wanted to add something to the last slide.
Oh,
So
sure.
when I found out about these organizations at the end of the book, I, got online and started contacting them a few. And one of them was results.org, and the Fort Worth group leader, replied to my message right away. And I wanted to connect with this organization, Together Women Rise, and there wasn't a local chapter, which later on we'll also talk, is that I started a local chapter because we didn't have one in the DFW area. So that's a little bit more tidbit on how I got involved. Now, to this question, how do I know who to contact or reach out to if I see a problem in the community? So, like, anything that you notice from the time you wake up in the morning, go about your day, and wonder, why is this a thing? Why is, for example, savings still a thing? Or why is there dumping or overgrown grasses along the highway around the places I frequent, right? Whether it's going to school, going to work, you know, along your daily lives. So I came across this situation specifically. These two pictures signify that, is that I was working off of, when you go off of downtown Highway 21, going towards the airport, you take the Beach Street exit. So I was interning at Immigration Services office, and the office space was provided by a Spanish church next door. So around Beach Street, around 121, when I started going there, I saw that there was dumping and the grasses were overgrown. And I said, why is that? Somebody needs to come take this. Somebody needs to cut this grass. So I started by contacting the city council person's office, the city council member. So I looked up the zip code of where this office was and which area falls into this beach and 121, and found out the councilwoman's office phone number. I called their office, and I said, there's dumping on these streets. Who can take care of this? And that's how I got started, is just by asking somebody who I thought would know. And the city council member whose district this was in and this was happening, that's where I thought to start. So you can't go wrong. I didn't know personally who were the right people to contact, but I started by contacting them and seeing how we could proceed from there. So specifically, what ended up happening is the city council woman's office gave me the number for the people who work in the city to pick up dumping along the streets. And the person followed up who picked up the dump and then said, hey, this situation is taken care of. If you have anything else, please call me at this. And she gave me her cell phone number, which was delightful. And I was like, it's almost instant gratification that my one phone call to the city councilman's office, the councilwoman's office, led to this situation getting taken care of. So that's, I would say, how do you know? You don't know, you just start somewhere.
That's got to feel like a little bit like a superpower that you made that phone call and then the problem was taken care of.
That's the thing. And that's what I want to relay to students, is that um, you do have that power. You are a constituent. You belong to a district. You're a citizen of the community, right? So get involved that way. Even though you don't know where to start, ask your instructors, ask somebody at the college, ask your city council member's office. So that's how you get started, because it's something you see around you and it can be addressed, whether it's like overgrown grasses along the highway, which in the last picture reminds me. So I also asked the city councilwoman's office, there's when is this grass going to get cut along Highway 121 getting into Beach Street? So and she's like, well, that's not the city. it's TxDOT, which is the state who does that along the highways. I was like, interesting, something new I learned. So just when I got the phone number for TxDOT, who to contact about the overgrown grasses along the highway, um, they ended up being cut. So I don't know if it was my call or just coincidence that it happened at this around the same time. So before I even get to call. So yeah, uh, it is, I feel empowering to get that action taken, and it happens. So yeah.
So I think sometimes students feel like, oh, I can't get involved. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to start. And I wanted to ask you, what barriers do you think students face in just that first step in beginning to participate civically?
That's a great question, and I have been there. I feel like when I was a student at TCC, um, I felt the same way, but it's an easy, free remedy. See if I can sell it at free. Is you have to just, you know, shoot, what is it called? Shoot an arrow in the dark. I mean, start somewhere, right? Talk to somebody, like I said earlier, is whether it's your instructors or your city council or neighbor. Just ask somebody, a peer, another student. Is like, hey, will you join me? I'm trying to research this situation. Will you go with me to an advisor or department chair or instructor to talk about this? So sometimes even just having one person with you, even though you don't know where to start, is empowering, right? You have a friend with you. So that's what I say is, the barriers would be you don't know where to start. You don't know if this will how much time it will take, or is it in person you have to go to find out something, or online, and so on and so forth. So you won't know of the barriers until you're at the point of deciding, hey, what is the situation, what do I need to do about it, and what can be done. But always know that it can be as simple as starting with a phone call and asking somebody.
So we've talked now kind of about students who are facing a problem in their community. They see something they want to fix. But what about students who have a cause that is near and dear to their heart? They have a cause that they're passionate about. How do those students start to engage?
So remember I mentioned earlier how I got started was by reading these books, and I found out these two organizations listed at the back, and it's like I said, if you see something around you that you're like, why is this a thing, right? It could be about education, it could be about student loans, it could be about transportation, anything, right? So whenever you find a cause that you are very, very interested in, start by looking that a simple search online, by looking that up and seeing what organizations are involved in that. And then you have to really take care of yourself and be safe at the same time. So you don't want to connect with random things that obviously you don't know anything about, first of all, but you want to be safe while doing that. So how I found out about these two organizations was it was from a reputable author. It was in a book, and what the book also said is these are the organizations that have done good over the years and rank highly in Charity Navigator. So I just had a mind blowing, like mind blown moment when I read there is an organization called Charity Navigator that ranks different charity organization, and the higher the score, the better it is as far as the money that goes to that organization that actually goes directly to the needy instead of an overhead cost. So that concept, I mean, that was new knowledge to me that this organization existed. So do that is to research, is to vet, like, is this legit? Is this organization legit? It's also interesting to see the cause you're interested in, is it there an organization who is already involved? So you read more about it, right? It's interesting. It's a discovery to see what is this organization doing? Like, what is their successes? What is their um, the actionable things that they're doing, their history, their platform, all those things. So I think at that point, just discovering that information is very, very interesting, eye-opening, all those adjectives I want to throw at it. So I would say you get started that way.
Can you tell us a little bit about these two organizations, Results and Together Women Rise?
Yes. So when I read the list on the back of the book, I contacted these organizations and they replied back to me. And so, for example, Results, I went on their website. So it's like, let me see what this is all about. And they said they advocate for poverty-related policies, both global and domestic. And so, I mean, I had a personal connection and I have my personal story about, 10 years ago when the recession happened, like my family really struggled financially. And I had a young son who got sick all the time and I had to take time off. I worked as a part-time advisor. So if I didn't work, I didn't get paid. And it's just a vicious cycle to be in that situation. So I connected with Results and I had my own personal story about people who struggle financially or with health resources or financial resources, so on. So that's how I found Results. And I found it extra interesting and extra motivating that Results volunteers advocate on the federal level. So they meet with members of Congress and discuss these topics. And furthermore, like I meant, like Department Chair Mertens mentioned, my undergraduate is in international studies, and I read on Results website that they, advocate for foreign aid as far as the Global Fund, um, maternal and child health, the Vaccine Alliance. So these are organizations on the global level that provide vaccines to underserved areas. So I'm like, hey, how much more perfect would an organization be for me, considering my background, considering my personal story? So that's how I got connected with Results. And if we get a moment at the end, I'll show you the Results website, which even made it more interesting is they have this legislator lookup. So not only do they advocate on the federal level, they have this tool on their website for legislator lookup where you can see who your elected officials are, the contact information for their offices. So I was like, hey, they make it pretty accessible to do this. And when I got involved with them, I learned more that this is all free, right? Volunteering is free, and the skills that you learn from it is valuable that you can use in your work in anything else in your life. But Results trains you in how to eventually lead meetings with elected officials with your representative. So that's on Results. And then Together Women Rise, again, I'll show you at the end their website and what they're all about is, so the concept for Together Women Rise is kind of a giving circle. So you host, pre-COVID, you would host a meal and it can be an open group or it could be your friends, it could be a closed group. Um, and you would donate some money, and the whoever's the host or the chapter leader for that area would turn around and give those funds to Together Women Rise, and they turn around and give grants to different charity organizations around the world that focus on women and girls education and economic self-sufficiency. So again, I was like, this is a perfect match for me with something that I want to be involved with. Um, we'll talk a little bit more about like how do you think you can give, right? You're interested about a cause, but like I said, I've been a broke student at TCC and when I was doing my studies because, hey, going to school is not cheap. So you have to take time away. Either you're working full time, then you have to cut back or balance the two. But I've been a very broke student trying to navigate college life. And when I went to listen to the author of the books we mentioned, at the Perot Museum, he was getting an award from Austin College. And he was on stage and he was saying, you know, You don't have to wait to give back. You don't have to wait to, hey, thinking in your mind, when I make X amount of dollars, then I can give, right? You can give now. You can give your time and you can give your talent. And I was like, on this journey of civic engagement, I've had mind-blowing moments that I was like, that is true. That is so simple, but it is true. Hey, I'm a broke student, but I have time and I have talent that I can give. Um, so that's how that got started.
So I think for a lot of us, we think, okay, this new world we're in, this age of COVID, if we can't get together in person, is virtual action also valuable? And what does that look like?
Absolutely. So specifically, let me use the examples of the two organizations I'm involved with. Um, so COVID happened and we had, like the rest of the world, we also moved our in-person meetings online. So the good thing is that the members of Congress, the senators and the representatives, they were also doing the same. They had moved all their meetings online. So our advocacy work pretty much stayed the same because we were writing letters to the editor, which was all done online. We were requesting meetings, sending emails to the members of Congress office and speaking with their staffers. So pretty much all of those was already email communication. The part we moved to virtual was the meetings. So that was pretty easy. And then it just went on from there. So we adapted easily to the virtual volunteer style. Similarly, I'm sure you can find a lot of other organizations. Now, Together Women Rise, like I said, we hosted meals, but that was also done to like, fun Zoom meetings, and we would watch a 15-minute video of different charity organizations that were receiving grants that month. And then the good thing about giving wise is me being the chapter leader, I didn't have to handle people's money. People could go directly on the Together Women Rise website and donate there. So at the end of the year, they would get a statement for their tax deductions and so on. But it was it was moved all virtual, moved to a virtual platform for, I mean, like the rest of the world was doing. So all that to say is that students can find if they're not comfortable meeting new people just yet, or it doesn't allow according, their schedule or their school and so on and so forth. It is so easy to find places to volunteer, especially or websites like volunteermatch.org. You can go on there and set your filters according to what your availability is and what you can do. So if you can do virtual work only, then certainly you can have that filter and it will give you where you can find opportunities to volunteer virtually.
That's so great for our students to know. So I think you kind of already touched on this, but I guess just to ask you very specifically, for a lot of our students, maybe they don't have all three of these things, but what can our students do to get involved? Like, what do you actually need?
So um, sometimes you don't think, I think we don't think ourselves as being talented or skilled in one way or another until we've experienced it. I'm specifically talking about whether it's civic engagement or volunteering, because if you have time or you're tight on time, you can look for virtual opportunities that is not does not have a specific time constraint, and you could do on your own time whenever you're available. Secondly, you can give your talent is meaning that at least you can try to connect. If you're trying to improve a skill, if you're trying to network, if you're trying to um, get to know more people in different fields. Those are all ways that you can have personal growth at the same time while you're navigating something new. And yes, there can be some uneasiness or discomfort when you're trying something new or getting out of your comfort zone for that matter. But at the same time, you will have rewarding experiences. I can definitely say I did not. think I could lead a meeting with representative members of Congress, but I did. And through this volunteer work, I was coached, I was trained, and I was given the topics that we need to talk about, research materials, supporting data, all of that. So eventually, when I started volunteering with results, I was observing and I would listen to what they're talking about and the topics that discussed during the monthly national webinar, and then the Fort Worth group leader would coach me along the way. So you would get to meet interesting people who have this time that they're giving too. So they're giving you, getting you trained, and you're all volunteers in the same group. So it's just one of those things that you have to experience, but you have to get step out of your comfort zone a little bit to grow in that area. So when I led my first meeting with my member of Congress at the time was Representative Kay Granger, um, I was nervous, of course, but then I did it one time, I did it second time, and third time. So we were meeting with her regularly, her office. So at one point when I was searching for my internship, I told her, think district manager, um, or she asked, and I said, I work at TCC, I'm working on my master's, looking for an internship opportunity at this time. And she's like, well, if you need a letter of recommendation, I would be happy to give you one. And in fact, her district manager, I think her name was Kristen Vandergriff at the time, she emailed me later on saying the congresswoman has offered me, it was nice meeting you, let me know. And by the time I received that email, my internship at the State Department came through, so I didn't need it. I politely declined, but it was nice to have a congresswoman offer to give me a letter of recommendation. So these are the wow factors, these are the wow things that will happen, that could happen.
And it also sounds like those skills that you gain volunteering, you're able to use those in a professional sense later on in your career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you can put it on your resume. Definitely. Yeah.
So we always want to make sure that our students are safe and that they're in safe environments. So if a student wants to go campaigning, first off, how do we know that it's legitimate? And then secondly, what should they be expecting to do if they actually help with a political campaign? I'm thinking like things like knocking on doors. How do we stay safe doing that?
Yeah, so a quick answer to that would be don't do it alone. But there's a long answer to that. I have done volunteering on a campaign, um, and you listen to the news, or what I would suggest is a good news source is NPR. 90.1 FM for our area, but NPR is a good news source, I would say, and I listen to it all the time. So either it's in the news, you would see different signs around the neighborhoods, right? Who's running for what seat, so on and so forth. So it crosses paths. It's on your radar. Hey, this is happening. What you could do again is do a simple online search, look up the candidate for whichever seat they're running for, and you could contact their campaign office and say, can I volunteer? Again, you would know it's legit if they are on the ballot, right? That's one way. It's not some shady person who has their sign up for no random reason and trying to hopefully not scam people. But that's one way, is it's in the news, so and so is the candidate, and you've seen their boards around the area, their campaign signs, and then you contact their district office or the campaign office and say, I'm interested in volunteering. And and then you just, goes from there. You meet with their office, and like I said, have a neighbor, have a trusted person, have a friend who wants to do this with you. That way you're not in a situation alone. And if it's especially new and a new area, you're going to go to public places. If you're knocking on doors, definitely don't do it alone. Most of the time when I've done it is that there's people meet up at one place, and then you have your list of things, or knocking indoors, or phone calls that you need to do, phone banking, etc. When volunteering on campaigns. So I would say don't do it alone. Have a trusty friend, and then once you're familiar with the environment and the rest of the group that's going to work with you, um, then at least even if you go to that group by yourself, at least you're not alone over there. So that's what I would say is keep yourself safe.
Back when I was a student, it feels like it was a million years ago now, phone banking was a thing, but now I know a lot of campaigns have moved to texting. So if you're uncomfortable making phone calls, that's another way you can get involved. I also wanted to ask you about Chris Nettles, District 8 City Council member, because I know that you have some information about that you would probably like to share.
Yes. So we have a webinar coming up with City Councilman Christopher Nettles, and we are having that event on April 14th. Again, it's going to be a webinar. It's going to be at noon, and it will be in the same platform as this one. So we have graphics and flyers on the way, coming soon, and we'll send it out to students. And actually, it's open to the community for that matter. So and then we have other events too that I'll mention in a minute. So yeah, Councilman Chris Nettles will be among us soon, virtually.
So another way that students can give if they want to is to donate money. And we want to make sure that they're donating to good causes, legitimate causes, but also causes that money actually goes where we want it to end up. So can you speak to us about Charity Navigator and how that works and what it is?
Yes, I shared about my moment discovering there's such an organization, right? Um, so again, back to when I was listening at the Pearl Museum, and Nicholas Kristoff was saying, many times around the holidays we get calls to give to XYZ, random organization. As legit and worthy as they may sound, you can do a little quick search to make sure they are legit. And what you want to keep in mind, and what I would want to keep in mind too, is that the organization that you're giving to, that the money is actually going to the needy, right? So there is an organization, like it says right here, Navigator, that ranks different charity organizations. So the money that goes into these organizations is, most of it is actually going to the needy instead of an overhead cost to operate that organization. So so be mindful of that. I had never thought of what is an overhead cost, but along this journey of mine, I have figured that out. That yeah, that makes sense. So you have to pay people, you have to pay to run an office at any place, especially a charity organization, and you have to pay salaries, but with all those things in mind, Charity Navigator ranks the organizations, and there is somebody actually putting in the work to see which organizations are actually um, ranking highest on their list. So, somebody is there doing the research to make sure these are legit organizations and what they're doing is actually good. So I would definitely urge everybody to keep that in mind.
So in addressing this last point that we had on our civic engagement chart earlier, I want to ask you just personally, do you feel more connected to the community now that you are civically engaged, that you're volunteering, that you're giving your time, treasure, talent?
Yeah, neither. But I figured you'd call me back. I know you all have
I
that.
do. The thing is, I do. It's just, it goes back to what I started with, right? You drive around town, wherever you live, wherever home is, and or wherever you go to work or go to school, and you would say, like, why is this a thing? Man, I'm so frustrated about the traffic, or the construction, or the dumping, or the overgrown grasses along the highway, or the trash. Um, I do feel, because this is where we live, right? So you want to take care of your surroundings, and it's the ownership. uh, uh, you know, you drive along the roads, and you think somebody's automatically taking care of that, right? It's our tax dollars at work. But at the same time, sometimes even the city needs direction from its citizens to, hey, this specific thing needs to be done on, you know, um, Beach Street. So I do feel more connected. I do feel like this is the place I live and work, and it should be spruced up and nice. So whether it's dumping or overgrown grasses, or there's people who are standing at the light with signs, or at the freeway, um, ramps saying, help needed, or food, or, and it's just, I look around things around my community and I'm like, why is this a thing? Why isn't somebody doing something about it? And we all may think that, why isn't somebody? But it takes one extra step to contact somebody, call the city, call the city councilman. I have found it personally easier to contact a council member's office than to contact the city and press the buttons on the and stay on hold. So, for what it's worth, it gets me talking to somebody faster, to address an issue. So I'm saying I do, because this is where I live and work. I do feel connected more. And I feel that it's improving. To see that, like you said, it's empowering.
So students, if you have any questions for our presenter, please go ahead and put them in the chat now. But Babita, I also want to give you a chance to tell us about this upcoming workshop that you have.
Yes. So along the same lines of our topic today of civic engagement, we have an Advocacy 101 workshop coming up next week, Wednesday, which is March 30th from 12:30 to 1:30 at the Trinity River campus. It's going to be room TRTR 3102. And it's the Fort Worth Results Group leader. He will be the presenter at that event, and lunch is provided. And we're welcoming um, students. Bring your friends. If you have neighbors, you want to, hey, this is an interesting topic, come check it out. This is just an introduction to advocacy, to find out who your elected officials are, and whatever topic you're interested in or passionate about. How do you prepare a concise message to your elected officials about whatever topics you want to talk about?
Thank you. I think it's going to be so valuable for our students. So I hope that we have a high turnout. All right, so students who are attending for credit, I just put the link in the chat, so please make sure you fill that out. That is how you get credit for attending, and then I send that to your instructors. Babita, thank you so much for being here with us today. I was really excited about this one, so thank you. And then we have 2 more webinars that are going to close out our spring civic engagement series, What's on My Ballot and Why Are We Voting Again?, which is going to be presented by Melissa Kenfield on April 29th. And then our government professor, Joan Johnson, is going to present on barriers to voting and how we shall overcome on May 5th. I believe that one's also at noon. So if you have any questions, let us know. Otherwise, thank you guys for attending. This was a nice session.
Yes, thank you so much. And if you want to stop recording, that's fine too. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to share the